Recording in progress.
UrbanX has been instrumental in establishing our company in the US.
Transform us from a small business into a scalable startup.
UrbanX helped me be very analytical and agile as a founder.
UrbanX taught me how to keep it simple all the time, focused on the customer.
UrbanX brought us from the idea lab stage to generating multi-million dollars of customer revenue.
The accelerator transformed our ability as a team to build hardware for the first time.
In a matter of weeks, we built our brand and online presence, developed our business model, and got multiple enterprise pilots started.
It really was key in helping us introduce our first product to the market, which is this beautiful smart helmet that you see here.
UrbanX has really become simply a part of our narrative, a part of the DNA.
You have access to a ton of really bright folks, some amazing resources, and it's not so often that founders get that opportunity.
They say that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. UrbanX breaks that cliche by helping founders go far, very fast.
So to all the members of the 10th cohort, congratulations, welcome to the family, and continue to innovate, because together, this is how we'll change the world.
Welcome, everyone. It's always funny to see founders pitching long after they've been at Demo Day. When we first met Mini and BMW, it was 2014 South by Southwest. For those of you who remember, that was an in-person event that we all used to go to. And we jumped in the back of i3 that had just been released, and it really felt like the future. Everything from the finishes in the car to the sort of silent acceleration. It was an amazing view at what was to come. And 7 years and 10 cohorts later, consumers are flocking to EVs, 1 wheel, 2 wheel, 4 more. We're way ahead of, I think, what most people believed would be possible. in electrification of transport. So it's all happening, but there's still a lot to do. So I'm assuming if you are here, then you've already seen Don't Look Up, and I can say a lot about the plot. But I really just have one issue, which is, how are there no startups? I mean, we have sort of weird-looking billionaires, we have the government, and no startups. So this is how you know it's not reality. So fortunately for us, startups are actually showing up. The numbers are super impressive. Electrification of transport, built environment, food, there's record investment, and there's record M&A activity, like one of our first cohort, or cohort 3 companies, Blueprint Power, was acquired by BP earlier at the end of last year. There's only sort of one problem left in the sort of venture funding world, which is early stage hasn't changed much. In the last 5 years, the deal number is roughly the same, and the funding level is about the same in early stage. So we still have a lot to do, and maybe the Don't Look Up folks had it figured out. It really is tough to compete with Web3, NFTs, and fintech. So there's still a lot to do. Many and UrbanX over the last 5 years have made really great progress. I think we now about a little over 90% of companies raise money after working with us. 70% of companies go on to raise Series A, which, if you know the numbers, is really impressive. And so we're excited to have a small impact. There's teams like Versatile who showed up with literally a napkin sketch. We heard from Rima from Nearspace. She built a satellite in the back of our old space at ADO in Brooklyn. And then you have teams like Cove Tool, who have already avoided 28 million tons of CO2. There are really very few companies of any size in the world that can make that claim. So we've never been more excited about what startups can do for climate and cities. And so let's get to the good stuff. We want to introduce you to 5 new teams today. Plentify is currently deploying the largest virtual power plant in the Southern Hemisphere. Phuc Labs has demonstrated that their technology can help recycle batteries. Limeloop has shown their customers that they can deliver much better e-commerce experiences, even as they introduce reusable packaging. And if your New Year's resolution is to work on climate, Climatebase is the place for you to go and find the start of your climate career. And finally, Partismony felt a little bit prescient. They knew we were going to have supply chain issues, and that's where they focused. They've already delivered massive time and cost savings and improved resilience, and are working on greenhouse gas reductions now. And so with that, it's my pleasure to introduce my partner, Shilpi, who will be our host.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate the intro and the cultural commentary. We always get more than we bargained for. So next, we're going to have pitches from these 5 great companies. Each pitch will be followed by a live Q&A with a small group of trusted investors, co-investors that we love working with. And so I'll be keeping time and leading us through the event. First up, we have Rich McCullough from Partsimony.
Hi, my name is Rich McCullough, co-founder and CEO of Partsimony. And at Partsimony, we're helping organizations build intelligent manufacturing supply chains. It's hard to go a week without hearing about the impacts of manufacturing supply chain disruptions. Interestingly, manufacturing supply chains have always had massive inefficiencies. The pandemic only showed us how bad the problem truly is. In fact, 94% of Fortune 1000 companies are still seeing residual supply chain disruptions related to COVID-19. And 55% of companies expect to downgrade their growth outlooks due to supply chain disruptions. Historically, manufacturing supply chains have been managed primarily via brokers and middlemen that help mitigate supply chain risks at a premium. Now, as you can imagine, this can be very convoluted, leading to a lack of transparency and competing interests. And organizations now are struggling to deal with the paradigm shift happening in the manufacturing supply chain sector. We have increases in commodity volatility, with the price of copper going up over 90% in the past 2 years. We have increases in the frequency and severity of supply chain disruptions. We have growing geopolitical disruptions. Now, when you add the critical need of addressing climate change within existing supply chain infrastructures, you quickly realize that this is a multifaceted problem. Current tools today were not built for this new paradigm. They just don't cut it. This new paradigm is about adapting to the chaos of uncertainty. Now, this is where Partimony comes in. Partimony is a market network that connects hardware data from engineering specifications to supply chain data to provide deep data insights around manufacturer discovery, design improvements, and supply chain resilience. You can think about Partimony as a SaaS hive mind that shares learnings from hardware companies and manufacturers as they discover and collaborate with each other, while naturally building network effects. In our closed beta, we've helped hardware companies save up to 96% in cost reductions and months in lead times. For Stanley Black & Decker, a company that's been around for over 100 years with billions of dollars, we've even helped them save over 80% in cost reductions. Now, our customers are hardware companies building complex mechanical assemblies, such as automotives, EVs, etc., and manufacturers building custom components. Now, in our closed beta, we've successfully processed over 387 transactions. Our average order value has grown over 14.4 times, which actually shows that we're growing spend with our customers. And we have a signed LOI for $97 million worth of GMV. And we've successfully secured new customers at 4.4 times our SaaS license. But what we're really most excited about is hardware companies such as Pave Motors onboarding existing manufacturer networks into the Partimony platform, showing that network effects are already growing. Now, our business model is straightforward. We have annual SaaS license fees that hardware companies pay, and we take a transaction commission on each PO issued. Now, what you have in front of you is the lifecycle phase of our product, from prototype to mass production. Not only is Partimony differentiated from each individual segment of the lifecycle, we have the added benefits of helping companies run real-time strategy. And on top of that, Partimony is a product-led growth company that naturally scales network effects as hardware companies and manufacturers discover and collaborate with each other. We all know that the manufacturing landscape is quite large, but at Partimony, we're starting with a $2.4 billion low-speed EV segment for three key reasons. One, it's still a maturing segment with new entrants, which means for us, little competition with legacy technical debt. And two, when you look at the manufacturing supply chain networks and capabilities needed, it lends itself to really good adjacencies to other product lines, such as automotives and even robotics. And three, when you look at the spend profile, it lends itself to medium to high margin business segments, which means for us, less price sensitivity for customers. Now, the team has a wide range of experience. I personally have over almost a decade worth of experience in the manufacturing supply chain industry, having worked on the $3 billion strategy for GE's Leap jet engine. I have a hardware patent related to the military space, and my twin brother and co-founder has over 5 years of experience as an investment banker on Wall Street. And we also have a deep technical bench with prior experience building distributed SaaS networks, as well as we're building proprietary machine learning federated models that helps with secure intelligence. What we're doing is we're leading through a fundamental shift in the way manufacturing supply chains are structured. At Partsimony, we're dedicated to revolutionizing the way hardware companies scale to production. To find out more, find us at partsimony.com.
Thanks so much, Rich. Great job. Shante is here for the first question.
Thanks. Hi, Rich. Thanks for the great pitch. My name is Shante Harris. I'm Director of Climate Investment and Partnerships for Venture for Climate Tech at Second Use. And we really focus on de-risking early stage climate technologies in the hardware and deep tech space. My question for you has to do around COVID. You mentioned that you all are seeing sort of an uptick in interest in technologies like this. Acknowledging all of the unknowns that come with this current landscape, how are you all accounting for accuracy and just providing your customers with what they need?
Yeah, what's interesting about this is COVID was just a veil that was kind of torn off. The real problem is not necessarily COVID, but when you look at the inefficiencies in the way current businesses structure themselves, you have very siloed tools. So you have engineering making decisions and you have supply chain managers making decisions. What that leads to is massive inefficiencies. So what we do at Partsimony is we connect engineering data to supply chain data to help with really smart strategy and decision making. Specifically to the pandemic, when you look at what happened, the people that survived the best were the people who were able to make better engineering decisions based on supply chain availability. And that's where Partsimony comes in.
Thanks, Rich. Great job. We are going to move on to the next team, but we'll have probably like somewhere between 1 to 3 questions per team. And we'll be moving on next to Phuc from Phuc Labs.
I'm Phuc Truong, CEO and co-founder of Phuc Labs. I'm here to present to you machine vision particle sorting. Modern life depends on industrial processes to sort particles out of water, and it's becoming more and more vital that we recover and reuse these precious materials, both in solids and in liquids. To achieve separation, even the most advanced techniques are still analog and have not changed much in decades. Membranes, gravity filters, and aeration all consume large amounts of energy and require labor-intensive maintenance. For example, drinking and waste treatment systems account for more than 4% of the energy used globally, and the search for more innovative solutions is becoming a global priority. At Phuc Labs, we use robotics to automate the process of identifying, separating, and reclaiming particles from water. We use the latest innovations from machine vision to identify particles in a stream of water, much like different types of packages moving along a conveyor belt in a warehouse. And we use hardware to slice the water and divert it to various destinations, one for water and others for other different types of particles. We can quickly identify particles using imaging sensors, spectral response, and other sensing technologies, and the sorting system can be easily added to existing operations and typically uses 1/3 the energy of filter-based systems because we're not constantly forcing water through membranes. With the ability to continuously and cost-effectively identify and separate particles from a stream, we can not only enhance many filtering applications, but we can do things that filters cannot, and this opens entirely new markets and opportunities for us. However, we're focused on battery recycling as our initial beachhead because it's a compelling business case that we can uniquely solve. Currently, all battery recyclers process the black mass or the cathode and anode materials, and what's left over are copper and aluminum metal components, which are blended and sold as low-grade copper. Our technology can differentiate between the silver in the aluminum and the brown in the copper and uniquely sort these metals. And by doing so, we can create a new aluminum revenue stream and increase the yield for more concentrated copper. And altogether, we can improve their top-line revenue by 50%. In the span of 10 months, we've developed 5 versions of our system. And with these progressions, we've exceeded the separation performance of existing systems and filed patents with more to come. And more importantly, over the last few months, we've captured the imagination of the market by securing letters of intent from major leaders in their respective sectors. North America's largest battery recycler, Retrieve Battery Recycling, Light Rail Manila Corp, which manages all Manila's light rail systems, where we're reclaiming oil from their waste stream. And we also have mining projects where our technology can reduce costs and GHG emissions, improve recovery, and reduce environmental impact. And the sales processes in these traditionally long sales cycle spaces have been truncated because of our concept's novel approach and impactfulness. For battery recycling, the total addressable market is estimated to grow to $23 billion by the year 2025 and grow at the rate of 32%, driven primarily because of the growth of the EV market. And the smart mining market is $10 billion and projected to grow to $24 billion by the year 2026 and grow at 20%, driven primarily because of the industry's need for information and autonomy-based solutions, which perfectly align with our technology. For industrial waste treatment systems, The goal is to reclaim our clients' valuable particles for reuse. And that's what we're doing for light rail, Manila, Cohort, and Nevoqua. Our competition consists of decades-old separation technologies such as flotation tanks, filters, membranes, and manual cleaning and testing, all ripe for disruption and overdue for digitization. However, it's not an us versus them binary decision. Our technology can enhance and complement existing technologies such as being pre-treatment for membrane filtration, and we can separate the particles that often clog these membranes, thus reducing consumables, operational expenses, and extending lifetimes. Our team consists of startup veterans with current successes in past ingenuity. Our chief scientist and head of hardware developed some of the key technologies implemented by Kiva Systems, which was purchased by Amazon and has since become core to Amazon's warehouse automation. Our hardware team consists of mechanical engineers from Desktop Metal. Our head of business has been part of multiple startup exits, and with the most recent being Uber acquiring Drizzly. And I've led the software innovation teams for 4 companies, with the latest being Clinical Research.io, among the leaders in e-source for clinical trials. We're raising $3 million for our seed round with an appetite for more, and soft circle 40% of the round so far. And we want to achieve the following milestones in the next 24 months. 1, successfully expand and scale our pilots and our customers. 2, accelerate our technical development by hiring software and hardware engineers. And finally, commercialize our technology and create licensing revenue and increase our IP portfolio by filing more patents. Phuc Labs enables particle sorting in the same way that Amazon created and redesigned the warehouse automation market. And as such, our technology can reclaim valued resources with cost-efficient precision and can be applied to any industry that particles are flowing in fluids. My name is Phuc. I'm the co-founder of Phuc at PhuketLabs.com, and that's my contact, Phuc at PhuketLabs.com. Thank you for your help and your time.
Thanks so much, Phuc. Great job. Gabe here has a question for you.
Hi, Phuc. Great job. I'm Gabe Cunningham. I'm a principal at Fontanalis Partners, which is a mobility-focused venture capital firm. So think electric vehicles, supply chain. My question for you is, often when you're integrating into an existing industrial process, it can be a challenge to kind of capture all the value that you're creating. And your partner can end up just getting all the benefit. So how do you think about capturing as much value as you can? And have you thought about kind of going more vertically integrated or rev share? Or how do you think about value capture?
For our current customer, Retrieve Battery Recycling, we're doing a rev share with them. We're actually getting 40% and they're getting 60%. For the excess arbitrage opportunity that we can get for them, we get them a higher price for pure copper and aluminum. And we anticipate that's a good starting point because we're sharing risk, but down the road, we do hardware as a service. But long run, we want to actually not just sell picks and shovels for other people. We actually want to create our own operations. And we can talk about that, if you're interested in the conversation with us.
Great. Ankush, do you also want to add one?
Yeah, hi Phuc. Again, great presentation. And my name's Ankesh. I'm an associate with Hitachi Ventures. We're a climate tech and healthcare focused firm, a venture capital arm of Hitachi. And my question is really around, I think to some extent, similarly to Gabe, when it comes to, I think, value capture, being able to communicate that value capture or the ability to, what the value proposition of your solution is to these potential customers. Can you give an idea of what that conversation typically looks like? How are you able to say, what are the potential savings if you institute your system, or how do you validate that there might be value in, for example, this wastewater that's coming out of their industrial process?
Yeah, so we basically, we value 3 things when we evaluate opportunities. One is how easy it is for our technology to be used for this application. So in this case of batteries, we're actually at the very end of the process. They currently end at a sludge of just water, just copper, just aluminum, and we can just sort that and just charge more money, 50% more in fact. So that's great for us. Second is extraction value. How valuable are these materials? And we started actually in sewage, and we decided to go away from literally poop to do something much more valuable like commodities and metal extraction, which is something that's also the third aspect, which is the future proof of the technology. Every single EV car, the battery will be recycled in 10, 15 years after they've been bought. So we can project the future. This is going to be the new oil, and we anticipate that we can be the new oil barons of the future.
Got it. Thank you.
What a note to leave on. Thanks, everyone here. And we're going to be moving on to the next company, Ashley Ettling from Limeloop.
Hi, I'm Ashley Etling, the founder and CEO of Limeloop. As we continue to shop online, boxes pile at our front door, our home, our recycling bins, and our streets. It's frustrating for us, it's bad for the environment, and it's costly for retailers. And it doesn't have to be this way. It's why at Limeloop, we are building everything retailers really need for sustainable shipping. If you can believe it, in the time we've been chatting, 20,000 parcels shipped, and it's growing to 2 trillion in the next 10 years, representing 3 trillion in revenue, millions of tons of waste and emissions, and thousands of hours of wasted time for retailers. The online shopping experience can be more transparent, efficient, and friendly to the environment. You should be able to shop guilt and worry-free. So we really envision a shopping experience where you know what is going on with your package from when you click buy to when it's being more ecologically used again. Limeloop's smart shipping platform is how we're getting there. Our combination of reusable packaging and a simple sensor creates a real-time lens into the e-commerce experience. This provides retailers with a powerful platform to effectively understand and auto-communicate with their customer, guide corporate responsibility, and supply chain decisions. One of the largest retailers in the world is already a customer, and through them, we're expanding with 250 other retailers in America, such as Costco, CVS, and Bed Bath & Beyond. We're also growing with SMB customers via reuse integrations such as Shopify and WordPress. We're currently at exceeding 45K in MRR, and we're on target to exceed 1 million in ARR this year. The way the Limeloop works is that carriers begin the journey by shipping the product in Limeloop smart reusable packages. Consumers open them, providing open rate data. 3PLs recollect the reusable packages, and Limeloop's platform guides redistribution. Throughout this journey, real-time location tracking, environmental impact, open rates, and temperature data is collected and up-leveled to predictive analytics. The way the business model works is that our SMB customers purchase the packages and subscribe to a per-month fee for access to a tiered platform capabilities, from environmental dashboards all the way to predictive analytics. This classic SaaS pricing approach brings Limeloop to a $1 billion company in the next 6 years. And the e-commerce logistics market is $900 billion and growing to $2 trillion in the next 5 years. Our current customer pipeline wish list represents over 5 million in potential revenue, and that's only 0.2% of the overall market. So we're really just scratching the surface. Competitors today have really focused on individual aspects of sustainable logistics. Think Returnity and Olive on reusable packages, and Narvar and Optoro on consumer engagement. But no one has really brought this all under one platform, saving retailers time and money to implement and support their fulfillment process. So we're really building this platform to bring it all under one roof to make tracking and accountability easier, saving brands millions on return restock, where is my package questions, and over 80% on emissions. Our leadership team is made up of myself, Angela, my co-founder and CTO, Chantal, and together we bring decades of experience in building companies, product development, supply chain management, and team building. And Chantal and I have worked together for over 10 years. And we're joined by some amazing investors and advisors covering all of Limeloop's key target areas, including Christina Omari, VP of Corporate Development at Lyft, Diane, who leads UX at Google, all the way to Patrick McGrath, who is really running the shift from brick and mortar to e-commerce and their flow centers at Target. So really thrilled for you to join us in transforming 3 trillion parcels into a sustainable and convenient experience. Thank you so much, and looking forward to questions.
Thanks, Ashley. That was awesome. Lily has a question for you.
Thanks, Ashley. My name's Lily. I'm a principal at a firm called Wireframe, which is a early stage fund focused exclusively on climate and health tech companies. And we're big fans of any innovations in the circular economy. So really excited about what you're working on with resource efficiency. I wanted to hopefully maybe better understand a little bit about the ideal profile for your customers in terms of kind of what's their level of readiness that they need to be considered kind of ideal to implement and deploy with, and what are the initial verticals that you're working on?
Sure. So it's a twofold. So we have customers who do in-house operations, so relatively easy implementation and startup. And then you have, as you know, more complicated 3PL processes and that shift in general. But what we're doing is we're building more technology around that. So think WMS integrations, onboarding integrations, integrating with all their, Shopify to WordPress or any platform they're using. So it really allows for that easy jumpstart. And then another approach we're going for is partnerships. So not only for our sales cycle, but also for implementation standpoint, is working with 3PLs to really start with one company and expand throughout them. And we're started in apparel and body care, and the goal is to expand into all categories.
Awesome.
Great, Ashley.
Thank you.
Sophie, do you have a question as well?
Yeah, thank you. My name's Sophie. Nice to meet. Thanks for the great presentation. I write a newsletter called Climate Tech VC that goes out to lots of folks operating and building in this space. And I likewise invest in early stage businesses. So appreciated what you had to say. Riffing off of Lily's question here, I'm curious if you can tell us more about the potential sustainability impacts of this. There's a lot to be done in the shipping space generally, but are you going after material reduction or waste loss reduction? Are there adjacencies and climate impacts that you're laser focused on?
Yeah, so it's a twofold approach. It's resource savings and emission savings. So we really track on the resource savings, tree, oil, and water. And then on the emission savings, we really look at, how that transportation works. And we're able to save over 80% emissions for a lot of our customers and really start to allow them to achieve their net zero goals that they've set out to achieve very aggressively.
Can I jump in with a follow-up, Shelby?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's an example of that? I'm curious about the actions that a customer might take from the data that they're gathering from your sensor suite.
Sure. So for example, Target's new goal is to be net zero by 2040. And then from there, they've kind of downloaded into breaking that up. So another one is having 100% of their packaging either reusable or recyclable or compostable. So by contributing a reuse system, we're able to up level and be able to add to those ESG goals that they're really building towards. And then on the technology side, through the whole supply chain, really reduce their impact and give them dashboards to be able to not only understand that internally, but also to share that externally as well.
Thanks, everyone. That was great. So next we have Evan Hines with Climatebase.
Hi, my name is Evan Hines, and I'm co-founder and CEO at Climatebase, where we're building the platform for climate tech opportunities. Climate tech represents the largest wealth creation opportunity of all time. According to the World Resources Institute, we must invest $100 trillion in climate solutions over the next 30 years. And as BlackRock CEO Larry Fink has stated, this could create upwards of 1,000 climate tech unicorns, which will, of course, create millions of new jobs. But this is simply just not happening fast enough. Today, climate tech companies struggle to attract both talent and capital at the speed required to scale the climate solutions humanity desperately needs. Hiring is already slow and expensive for these companies to begin with, but generic job platforms like LinkedIn and Indeed are far too noisy and lack the adequate curation for climate tech. And when it comes to fundraising, the amount of capital that would otherwise be invested in the next Teslas of the world is currently bottlenecked because most of those opportunities are largely limited to wealthy institutional investors. Both of these factors are compounded by the fact that climate tech is a new and rapidly growing, but still nascent space. And much of the hiring and investing has occurred in siloed and inaccessible networks. So at Climatebase, we want to solve this by building a platform for climate tech opportunities. And we're starting first with a focus on jobs and community. Since launching in mid-2020, We've helped over 1,800 companies attract talent from our audience of over 300,000 mission-driven users. And the vast majority of our users also want community. They want to connect with each other, and we've discovered that they're even willing to pay for that. In fact, we already have $2.5 million in demand for our private paid community, which we're doing to eventually open up to be a free and foundational component of Climatebase as a platform. We began experimenting with monetization in May, and since then, we've crossed over $100,000 in revenue from employers ahead of schedule, and our MRR is now growing organically at 18% month over month. It's also important to note that nearly all of our revenue has been inbound, and the vast majority of our growth has been almost purely organic word of mouth. So we're already becoming a well-recognized staple within the climate tech ecosystem. But our vision for Climatebase doesn't end just as a jobs and community platform. We want to be the market network for the climate tech ecosystem to help climate tech companies attract talent and capital. We envision a flywheel where users and companies come to Climatebase for the jobs, and our users stay for the community, which drives engagement and creates a moat through network effects. And with this, we're able to help the companies on Climatebase raise capital from our engaged community of mission-driven users in exchange for us collecting a portion of the total amount raised. Climatebase sits at the center of three large and rapidly growing markets, and we estimate the intersection of these for our niche to be around $12 billion TAM. We're starting off as a jobs platform, which is, as a market size, expected to grow to $50 billion by 2026. And we also see opportunities within capital, particularly around crowdfunding, the market of which is expected to grow to $200 billion by 2026. The niche, of course, that we're focusing on is climate tech, which at $32 billion in this past year has doubled year over year for the past 4 years straight, is now outpacing the growth of the broader VC market by 5x. With a clear focus on climate, we're bringing together what is currently a fragmented landscape of unspecialized alternatives. And in doing so, we can uniquely combine the defensibility of a marketplace, the network effects and moat of a focused community, and the market opportunity for climate tech capital into a single solution. In 2022, we plan to double down on jobs and talent and achieve $1 million in ARR. But we also plan to onboard the first 1,000 members to our private paid community. This will generate revenue for us, but it'll also, more importantly, seed an engaged social experience on the Climatebase platform, which we will eventually open up to our broader audience of users. At the end of 2022, we'll take our first step into capital, beginning with a crowdfunding campaign for one of the most exciting companies on Climatebase. Together as a team, we have decades of experience building platforms and communities at organizations like Slack, Netflix, Make School, Gusto, and more. And what we're really doing is building the product we needed for ourselves. I started Climatebase because I wanted to work in climate, and I realized that the major platforms of the world didn't help me discover the right opportunities effectively. What started off as my own spreadsheet of thousands of climate tech companies then evolved into the world's first climate career fair, which has evolved into the Climatebase platform that you see today. And this is really just the beginning. Join us in our mission to accelerate climate solutions for a climate positive world. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks so much, Evan. Great job. Lily, did you want to start with a question?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks, Evan. And I'm a big fan of Climatebase and recommend it to all the companies I work with. So it's a really valuable resource already. I wanted to maybe get a sense from you on how you think about solving some of the other challenges in recruiting top tier talent. I think, when you think about a marketplace, that's where I think of the supply side, especially these days where the competition for talent is so fierce and so many companies can afford to pay so much for, the average software engineer. So I wanted to maybe get your thoughts in terms of if it's really an education issue and just awareness issue of getting in front of some of these top level tech talent so they don't go and work for, a traditional Web3 or enterprise SaaS company, and how y'all are building the product to really be able to recruit the best in that talent supply side.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, we've sort of identified 3 challenges that prevent more talent from breaking into climate tech. The first and most critical one is job discovery. Until Climatebase went live, there really was no good solution for discovering these kinds of opportunities, because climate is not an industry. It's kind of every industry looked at through a very specific lens. So the major job platforms just don't tackle this at all. So that's the main issue that we see, and that's why we've been able to grow so rapidly just through word of mouth. That we built something that is actually valuable to a lot of people. But I think the other biggest challenges around community and network, especially in climate tech, a significant amount of the investment and the hiring has come through and happened through really closed and inaccessible networks, and that's just not scalable. And these networks are also not easily discoverable by the hundreds of thousands of job seekers that have already used Climatebase. So that's why we view community and a social experience on Climatebase as being such a critical foundation to our product.
Great. And Gabe, we have time for a quick question if you also wanted to jump in here.
Yeah, just quick question. It's amazing you have such an active community, and one thought in keeping community engaged, there's such a need for upskilling and education as people kind of get up to speed in the climate tech world. So have you thought about that aspect of this flywheel and whether there's an educational component of your model?
Yeah, we absolutely have. In fact, the way that we're approaching community is really through a cohort sort of manner, which would replicate a lot of different kinds of like alternative online cohort-based educational programs that you are seeing popping up today. So in fact, the way that we're launching community is very much through an educational lens. And that's also how we're able to monetize off of that. But I think the bigger opportunity is not keeping that community experience limited to people who are willing or able to pay, and eventually opening up a channel of our social experience on Climatebase to our broader users. So my answer is yes, and I think it leads into something even bigger for us.
Thanks so much, Evan. And last up, we have John Kornick with Plentify.
Hi, I'm John Kornick, the co-founder and CEO of Plentify. We accelerate the use of renewable energy by connecting the appliances in your home to cheaper, cleaner energy. Renewable energy is coming online at an unprecedented rate. In the US last quarter, 95% of all new energy capacity was renewable. But this is creating a big problem. There's a growing mismatch between when people want electricity, as shown in gray, and when renewable energy produces, as shown by the solar curve in orange, which you can see produces excess power in the middle of the day, but does nothing for the demand peaks in the mornings and the evenings, which are our dirtiest, most expensive times on the grid. The current plan is to solve this mismatch using batteries. But there's already a solution that is 5 to 10 times cheaper. That is the appliances in your home. The basic idea is that we can decouple when your appliances use electricity from when you use those appliances. For example, you can use your water heater to heat water at 12 p.m. today, but have a hot shower at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. In fact, 70% of the demand in your home is from appliances which are shiftable in this manner. Not just your water heater, but space heating and cooling, fridges, pool pumps, electric vehicles, and more. We connect these appliances together into virtual power plants, which address this mismatch between supply and demand by shifting demand outside of those dirty, expensive peaks and crowding it into cheap, clean, renewable energy times. We started with water heating because we believe that water heaters are one of the most acute problems on our grid. They waste up to about half the energy that they use. They're a major driver of peaks. In South Africa, where I'm based, 25% of the entire country's peak demand. They draw most of their power outside of sunny times, which means solar by itself is not the answer. And the grid is not the only one who hates these appliances. Insurance companies hate them too, because they burst on average every 5 to 10 years, often causing damage, which drives 40% of building insurance claims. We believe we have the answer in the form of Hotbot, which is that little black box that Lucky in the photo is holding. This attaches to any electric water heater and turns it into an intelligent asset, which addresses those 4 main pain points with water heaters. Firstly, it gives you as a user hot water when you want it, using as little electricity as possible. Secondly, it slashes those dirty, expensive peaks by up to 40%. Thirdly, it enables renewable energy system sizes up to twice as large. And finally, and unlock smarter building insurance by detecting almost anything that can go wrong with the water heater and taking remedial action. For example, detecting when it springs a leak and then closing a shutoff valve to prevent that from damaging your home. The system is made up of 4 main components. There's the Internet of Things controller that connects to any electric water heater. That collects data and sends it to our intelligence engine, which uses machine learning and other data science tools to decide when to turn each appliance on and off. Our users get access to an app through which they can track their savings, set their preferences, and control the system. And our customers get access to a dashboard and alert engine to keep an eye on their fleets. We follow a B2B2C strategy, with our customers being B2B players with large fleets of water heaters under their control, and who can immediately monetize the load management and risk management services that we provide. They fall into 2 main verticals: utilities and insurance companies, with utilities ranging from anything from a micro utility serving an individual building all the way up to a distribution utility serving an entire city or region. We've had great success with the strategy so far and have already contracted to build what will be the largest virtual power plant of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere in the next few months, incorporating more than 8 megawatts of load across more than 2,500 units. Contracted customers span both utility and insurance verticals and include several public distribution utilities, including the largest in South Africa, South Africa's largest private utility, several micro utilities, and several insurers, again, including South Africa's largest. In addition to that, we have a robust pipeline, including more than $10 million of ARR opportunity with signed LOIs, again, from several more flagship South African clients, as well as a top 4 UK utility. Our business model starts with the value that we create for our customers. This ranges between $12 and $20 per device per month, and it is generated in different ways for the different customer types. For utilities, they generate this value by using less of their expensive, dirty peak power and more cheap, clean, renewable energy. For insurance companies, they generate this value by reducing insurance claims. For the service, we charge them between $6 and $10 per month, paid either as a pure SaaS fee or an upfront fee and a smaller SaaS fee. Because our customers generate so much excess value with every device deployed, they distribute these for free to the end user. We make our money on the $6 to $10 because it costs us on average $4.50, coming down to $1.50 per month as we integrate our technology directly into appliances, which is something we are actively in discussion with several OEMs about. There's a big opportunity here. The TAM for load management of water heaters alone is $70 billion. And when you add other home appliances, it about doubles that. We've already launched in South Africa's $1.6 billion market and have made good headway into the UK's $2 billion and the US $22 billion markets. We see our main competition as batteries, relative to which we are 5 to 10 times cheaper. However, if you compare us to other companies trying to add intelligence to home appliances, we differentiate ourselves on 3 dimensions. Firstly, on services. We provide both load management and risk management services simultaneously. This means that we can earn revenue from insurers and stack revenue from utilities from the same device. In addition, it also means we get more channels through which to access the end user. Secondly, on cost, we build low-cost hardware. We innovate prolifically to remove this hardware with software. And as we integrate with appliances, we'll eliminate most of our hardware costs. And finally, on the customer side, and you'll hear that's our valves testing in the background. On the customer side, we follow a B2B2C strategy, which we believe is inherently more scalable with a lower cost of customer acquisition than the B2C strategy followed by many of our peers. So finally, we've got a team of more than 20 people working on this problem full-time, including hardware engineers, software engineers, data scientists, growth and operations specialists. To name a few of our execs and advisors, I previously led Google's energy business in Africa. My co-founder and our chief growth officer, Kalis, previously led Discovery Vitality's North American business. Jay, our ML advisor, previously led IBM researchers team IBM researchers team in Africa. Alistair, our product advisor, is a product lead at Stripe, previously with Facebook and Google. And Jill, our financial advisor, leads climate investments at the Walton Family Office. So all in all, a really strong team bringing relevant experience from some of the world's top organizations. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and I look forward to answering any questions.
Thanks, Sean. Great. We have time for one quick question before you wrap up. Ankesh, do you want to jump in?
Yep. Thanks, John. I think DERMS is a super exciting space. I'm curious to hear how do you think about the transition from controlling your own hardware, for example, with water heaters, to something where you're no longer in control over the end appliance, with OEMs actually managing access to that hardware? What are your thoughts on how to scale to those different verticals?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, we are the system. Firstly, the system that we designed is designed around user experience. So the first thing that it does is it delivers the service required to the user, and after that, it optimizes for the energy system or the whatever system that we're trying to incorporate into. So no matter who controls it, whether it's the OEM, whether it's us, whether it's utility, ultimately the system will run the same way and the services will be the same. Just the constraints will be changed in the system. Additionally, we see this partnership with OEMs as critical, because it means that we can deploy massively at scale at a much lower cost. And for them, they see the regulations requiring this kind of tech coming. And so they see this as a way to maintain market access, grow market share, and open up new streams of recurring revenue.
Thanks so much, John. I'm going to cut us off here to make sure we can wrap up the event. Great job, everyone. Thanks to the incredible founders and their teams for all the impactful work you're doing. And so much gratitude for the investors who joined us today to help us get to know these companies and founders even better. And now I'd like to introduce Bernd Kober, the head of Mini, for some remarks, and then we'll have a keynote from Saul Griffith.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Bernd Kober, head of Mini, and on behalf of our team, our companies, UrbanX, and the entire BMW Group, it's my pleasure to welcome you to UrbanX Demo Day 10. Mini was born out of innovation and the desire to improve city life in a meaningful way. Following a fuel crisis in 1959, Sir Alec Isigonis created the classic Mini, a clever solution for urban mobility, small, economical, affordable, a timeless and global icon of good design and engineering. This spirit of taking challenges and creating opportunities has carried us through the last 6 decades and is the foundation for our evolution to an all-electric brand. Since our inception in London, we have always believed that cities are the engine of creativity and growth. We created UrbanX 5 years ago in New York to support startups working to make city life brighter and help address the challenge of our time, climate change. Obviously, climate is not the only issue the world is grappling with in 2022. The evolving nature of the pandemic, the supply chain crunch, immigration and refugees in every corner of the world. These issues can sometimes feel overwhelming. But we remain steadfast in our work and optimistic in our outlook, knowing that we are better together and that our resources and know-how can be put to use in ways that meaningfully improve our collective well-being, rapidly and at scale. We are incredibly excited about what lies ahead and can't wait to announce more details over the coming weeks. Thank you for your interest, support, and commitment to brighter city life. I'm now pleased to introduce Saul Griffith. Saul is an engineer and inventor. As founder and chief scientist at Other Lab, an independent R&D lab that helps government agencies and Fortune 500 companies understand energy infrastructure and deep decarbonization. Saul is the founder and chief scientist at Rewiring America, a nonprofit dedicated to widespread electrification as a means of fighting climate change, creating jobs and making our air cleaner. His new book, Electrify, is out now. Welcome, Saul.
Hi, I'm Saul Griffith from Other Lab and from Rewiring America. First of all, thank you to Bernd for the very kind introduction, and congratulations to you all as part of Cohort 10 and your teams for doing your part to build more resilient, more sustainable cities. Quickly, I'd love to congratulate UrbanX on its milestone achievement, 5 years producing 10 cohorts of the type of entrepreneurs we need in the world. It is organizations like UrbanX that are fundamental to building the companies we need and getting them from innovation to scale. And there's very few programs that have such a strong emphasis on product and company building, something very close to my heart. In fact, one of my own teams and companies I helped co-found, Gradient, worked with Mini, worked with UrbanX, worked with UrbanUs, and provided fantastic support to our founders and hopefully to you all. And this is exactly what is needed if we're going to tackle climate change, what I think is the 21st century's biggest challenge on the time frame and with the passion and urgency required. Switching to a bit of a presentation now, just to give you my current view on the world and in some respects a plea for what I want you all to be focused on either now or in your next act. Electrification and the role of cities in that. So Lightning Bolt hopefully provides you with that sense of urgency. A lot of the work I'm going to reference here is actually just recently published by me in a book called Electrify, self-promotion. Please go out and read it. I think it's a pretty realistic, very hands-on approach to what we need to do this century, hopefully in the next 2 decades. Anyway, what is it? Our carbon crisis, as you know, is really an energy crisis. In the US, 87% of our emissions are from energy. That's from coal, natural gas, and oil. The other things that are still important are refrigerant leaks from refrigeration, what our cows and sheep and meat production produces, and soil management. But let's focus on energy. That's the big slice of the pie. It was first mapped in the US in the 70s during the oil crisis to try and figure out how to solve that oil crisis. It gave us this picture of how energy flows from fossil fuels through the economy, various sectors like industry, commercial, residential, and then whether it was wasteful, red cross, or useful, green cross. But we're stuck in those old ways of thinking. I now look at the same charts and I look at them like this. I try to think about the machines underneath and what they are and how to replace them and how to replace them on the time frame required. What is the time frame required? These are the required emissions trajectories for 1.5 or 2 degrees of heating without relying on negative emissions, which I think we are over-relying on. So you can see for a 1.5 degree target, that's 75 or 80% reductions by 2030. For 2 degrees, it's 50%, and it means we've got to move quickly. If you contextualize it in terms of machinery, you can see that if every time a fossil fuel machine fails, only 10% of them are replaced with electrified machines, it's going to take forever. If it's 50%, we're going to blow past all of our targets. We basically need 100% electrification at the retirement of any fossil fuel machine out there, irregardless of whether it's a stove burning natural gas, a coal plant burning coal to make electricity, or a car burning oil and gasoline. We need to replace them all as soon as we can at their retirement age. That means we've got the 10-year things like cooktops, water heaters, things that last for 20 years like cars, our rooftops that need solar, gas heaters, and the 40-year things, the big pieces of industrial infrastructure, including coal and gas plants. If we do, and electrification is really the only conceivable answer, we can't make enough biofuels, we won't make synthetic fuels at this scale. We need to electrify, but if we electrify, there's a huge win. An electrified truck like the Ford F-150 Lightning will use about 1/3 of the energy of the gasoline burning equivalent. If we electrify our power plants, instead of losing 2/3 of that energy up the smokestack, which is what happens with coal and natural gas, if we generate that electricity with solar and wind, we lose practically none of it. So another sort of 60-70% win. If you use traditional hot water heaters to make using natural gas, you can make them slightly more efficient going from that left bar to that middle bar, but if we run them with heat pumps, we can again reduce the amount of energy required by 2/3. Same with heating our spaces. Instead of using natural gas or even oil, which you can only make marginally more efficient, if we move to electric heat pumps powered by renewables, huge win. Same with cooking, and that means that we've got, we can actually produce the future we need at less than half of the energy. I also think now about the world in terms of this. Literally, how all of those machines at the bottom there, that's the appliances in an individual household, how those houses connect to street levels, how those streets connect to suburbs, how those suburbs connect to cities, how that distribution layer, which is suburbs and cities, connects to the substations, which connect to transmission of wind, and etc. I would encourage you all to start contextualizing your work in this giant picture of electrification and of infrastructure that we need to transform. A lot of my focus is around the household because that's the purchasing unit. They make the decisions about what we buy. In fact, 42% of US emissions are decisions that are made around the kitchen table. What powers your car, what powers your home, and what fuel you use for cooking and heating. So we've got to focus on this sort of small list of about 8 or 9 machines. And we've got to think about it for the different vernaculars of cities, whether it's single family detached, which is 75 million homes like that in the US. That's the great US suburbs. There's single family attached in some of our higher density cities, 10 million multi-unit family homes, 20 plus million 5-unit multi-story multi-family, and still there's 7 million households in the US living in mobile homes. We need to think of all of these 121 million households and their journey into electrification or into the journey for the other missions that your companies might be on. To be very explicit, this is the task. In the next 20 years, we need to replace 58 million gas heaters in the US. We need to replace 6 million fuel, oil, or kerosene heaters, 6 million propane heaters, 60 million gas water heaters, 20 million gas dryers, 35 million gas stoves, 7 million gas cooktops, 2 million gas ovens, 2 million gas hot tubs, 1.5 million gas-fired swimming pools, 70 million gas barbecues, and then 250 million cars. 25% of them are cars, 50% of them are SUVs and crossovers, 20% of them are pickup trucks, 5% are minivans, and there's around 8.5 million motorcycles. That's an enormous number of machines that entrepreneurs need to design, build, electrify, figure out how they integrate with cities and city infrastructure, figure out how we're going to plug them all in and do it all in 20 years. To give you some caution or some perspective, that's a billion machines in the US that we need to retire and replace with electrified infrastructure. We need to do that at the rate of 1 million machines per week for 20 years, or for 500,000 households per month, every month for 20 years. Or another way of saying it is 1 machine per second for 20 years needs to be electrified. That's millions of jobs in construction, installation, manufacturing, finance, and sales. They're local jobs. They're jobs that are going to be in cities, because you have to, this is the end use. So it's hard to have a hot water heater installed by someone in China if it's in New York City. So there's fantastic storytelling opportunities for how this is going to revitalize communities, revitalize cities, as well as revitalize our environment and fix our climate problem. People are obsessed with the 40 gigatons, which is humans' annual emissions. Just as a final point, I think we've seen a lot of focus on gigaton problems. So we've got to solve the gigaton problem of cars and transportation, the gigaton problem of this or that. But I actually really think, there's my last point of emphasis, I want you all to focus on megatons. There may be gigaton problems, but there's no gigaton market per se. Markets divide into geographic regions, into demographic sections, etc. So, we need hundreds of shots on goal for different vehicles and transportation solutions. We need hundreds of shots on goal for new appliances. And I think we need to all, if we had 40,000 entrepreneurs globally focusing on megaton problems, that's really what's going to solve the problem. So pick your megaton, get out there, work hard, build a successful company. I wish you all the best of luck. And thanks again to Mini, BMW, and UrbanX. Rewiring America, shameless plug from my nonprofit trying to help push this infrastructure across the US. Thank you.
Thank you, Sol, for your leadership and for joining us to celebrate UrbanX's 10th cohort. Thank you also to everyone who joined us today. You heard from the founders of disruptive companies rethinking aspects of our economy that will help us live in a more sustainable planet. From a platform for climate-focused career paths to reusable data-driven packaging, supply chain management, battery recycling, and a load management platform that connects home appliances to cheaper and cleaner energy. These are the types of innovations that we think about constantly at UrbanX. I am proud to have worked alongside these 5 teams for our 10th cohort. But if you have a solution that would be a good fit for the next program, or if you know of one, please go to urbanx.com/apply. We have exciting news to share in the upcoming weeks about our plans for the future of UrbanX. In the meantime, we hope you take the opportunity to engage with our founders. Please email any of us to get introductions to companies of your interest. We wish everyone an inspiring 2022 and look forward to working together in the new year. Thank you.